When you sew, you have a needle thread and the bobbin thread. There's a lot we can say about the bobbin, and the bobbin really affects, well, it kind of affects your sewing, both in sewing and embroidery. So we're going to talk all about bobbins, bobbin cases, cleaning your machine. There's so much to talk about when we talk all about bobbins. I'm Cathy. This is Sewing Tech Talk. Let's kind of lift the hood and kind of check out what's underneath. So the bobbin thread, well, it's an integral part of how we sew. Working on the Brother Stellaire today, and a lot of the information today, well, that's probably going to apply to your machine as well. But the Stellaire has a few things that are kind of important to know about the bobbin. So first of all, the Stellaire came with 10 bobbins, one in the machine and a little pack of 9. And they're class 15 plastic bobbins. What's good to know is Brother and Baby Lock have very similar bobbins. They've had the very same bobbins for quite a while now. So if you have a bobbin from a previous Baby Lock or Brother machine, it's probably going to work. So a class 15 plastic bobbin is ideally suited for this machine. And the ones made by Brother or Baby Lock are really weighted perfectly for this machine. So why do I say all that? Well, you're probably going to get the best results if you use the official bobbins that either came with the machine or you adopt some additional official bobbins. Now, when you're doing sewing, generally that top thread and that bobbin thread, well, you're going to kind of match them. You don't necessarily have to, but you're going to be using like an all-purpose thread or a cotton thread for quilting. Those threads you're going to kind of mostly match. There's not much to consider when you're doing regular sewing. Embroidery is going to be a little tiny bit different. So when we're going to wind the bobbin, we're going to wind the bobbin using the bobbin winder on the top of the machine. And I'm going to be winding a red bobbin today. Now, let's thread that bobbin, or wind that bobbin, and then we'll talk about threading it. So here's the bobbin thread. Like I said, I'm using a red bobbin, a red thread so that you can see. If I have it on this spool pin down here, or the auxiliary spool pin up there, or even the thread stand that comes with the machine, they all can be a place where I can have my thread to wind the bobbin. You're going to follow the dotted line on the top of the machine for the bobbin winding thread path. So if I'm here, I'm going to come here, under this, up to this thread guide. And the most important thing is I go through the bobbin tensioner, and I want to make sure the thread seats in there. Then I come over to the bobbin winder, but I need a bobbin. So here are different bobbins. We're going to wind the thread with the bobbin that came with the machine, but I wanted to show you this. If you look at this bobbin, it's a clear plastic bobbin, and there's a little bit of thread left on there. The Stellaire has a low bobbin sensor, and how it works is it shines a light through the bobbin, and if it can wiggle through that thread, well, then that's going to be able to tell the machine that you're really low on thread. So we're going to take this leftover thread off. Now, you don't really ever want to wind a bobbin with existing thread on it. One length of thread on a bobbin, please. And then we're going to take our bobbin and we're going to snap it onto the pin. On the top of this is called the bobbin seat. Now, when I take my thread, I'm going to wind it around the bobbin. There is a little diagram up here to show you how. I just wind it a couple of times around, and I just click it into here, and then that's going to automatically trim that thread, getting ready for me to wind the bobbin. Now, if you don't get the thread into the bobbin pretensioner disc right here, sometimes the thread can go crazy and kind of get a little bit under this plastic disc. And that's not good. It's going to be winding down here and not on the bobbin where you intend it to be. If that happens, well, naturally stop the machine, pull the bobbin off, and this plastic item comes directly off so that you can take that thread off there. And then you just snap that plastic right back on. So now, to wind the bobbin, we're going to click that little lever off to the left, and that's going to engage the bobbin winder automatically. No need to loosen this over here, the little whatever you call it, the flywheel. And in the machine, here is the bobbin winder screen, right? So it shows the bobbin. It has a minus and a plus. This is for speed. It's not for the amount of thread that's on the bobbin. So if you want to bind your bobbin slowly, I usually do. I don't know, maybe it gets more thread on there. I don't know. Then you're going to minus. If you want it to go a little bit faster, if you're in a hurry, you can push it off to the left. And that's going to change the speed of winding the bobbin. When I hit start, it's going to go. Now, the machine's not running right now, but it's good to know that on the Stellaire, there's a separate bobbin winder motor. And I can even wind a bobbin when I'm embroidering or even free motion quilting. It's not going to affect me using the machine. If I want to see the full screen and I'm doing the bobbin winder, all I have to do is hit OK. That screen is gone, but it's just kind of tapped up here. You see the bobbin? If I touch that, it brings that screen back. So let's wind a bobbin. If I don't want a full bobbin, all I have to do is hit stop, or I could click this lever off to the right, just like that. And that's going to disengage the bobbin. So now, all I do is I take the bobbin off. I can use this handy dandy cutter to cut it, and I'm going to put it in the machine. Now for sewing, that's great. It's pretty easy. But in embroidery, you're going to use a slightly different bobbin thread called an embroidery bobbin thread. And there's a spool of it that comes with your machine that's especially formulated to go with your machine. Do you have to use it? No. You can get bobbin thread that you can wind on the bobbins that came with the machine. You can also get, and this is a lifesaver, pre-wound embroidery bobbins. Let's go over to my little area here and I'll show you some of those. So these are some pre-wound embroidery bobbins that you can get. Here's the bobbin thread that comes with your machine. It's called the Finishing Touch, and it's a 60 weight bobbin thread. These threads work great in your machine. There's white ones and then there's the black ones. I use the black ones when I'm doing teeny tiny lettering because sometimes those letters, the stitch length is short and sometimes that can pull the bobbin thread up. When I use the dark bobbins, the dark thread on those little letters comes out really nice. Now here is a pre-wound bobbin. It's on a plastic. It's a plastic bobbin, right? And these bobbins are, like I said, pre-wound. They have a lot on them because when it's wound at the factory, it can get quite a bit. One thing that's good to know is if you use up your bobbin, you have an empty bobbin, right? These bobbins are not the same as the bobbins that came with your machine. I think they're a lesser quality plastic. You can just kind of look at them and tell. Could you wind thread on and just keep collecting empty pre-wound bobbins? Well, they're not going to give you the same performance as the bobbins that came with your machine. So, do I use them? Sometimes in a pinch from the midnight special, I need an empty bobbin and I have one of them. Sure, it's not going to be that big a deal. But, in the general rule, I'm going to use the official bobbins. They're great, those empty pre-wound bobbins. If I need to split a spool of thread, I have one spool of thread that's the right color. I need to use a twin needle, or even in my serger if I need that one spool, the color of that spool to spread out. Absolutely, I use those bobbins for that. If I use a wash away thread, I wind it on one of those and I clearly mark it that I'm using a wash away thread, because you never want to sew a piece with a wash away thread unless you want to. Ask me how I know. Anyway, so you can use those empty pre-wound bobbins, but as a general rule, try to use the bobbins that came with your machine. Now, there's different sizes of pre-wound bobbins, believe it or not. Class 15, well, those fit in your machine just like the regular bobbins do. But you can also get a different size bobbin called a Class L, and it's a shorter bobbin. This is a Class L pre-wound bobbin, and it can be used in your machine. I hope you can see it's not as tall as that class 15. So your machine also came with what's called a bobbin centering pin. What happens if you're using this L bobbin, you use the centering pin and lo and behold, they're the same height. Never should you never use that centering pin with a class 15 bobbin. It makes it much too tall. You can also get pre-wound bobbins that have a cardboard and a solid core, and those can be used with your machine. But remember that light shining through? Well, it can't shine through that solid core, so you're not going to get that function letting you know that you run out of bobbin, because it's going to think you always have bobbin, which you don't. So you can use those L's and use the bobbin centering pin with those just to make sure it's the right height. Now, what if your machine, you're using a clear bobbin and it doesn't tell you that you're running low on thread? You don't get that message and you ran out of thread. It's a disaster. Well, what could have happened is you could have a buildup of lint in the bobbin area of your machine. Now, what that lint might do is block that little light from coming through. Good to know that it's not your machine's fault. You just need to clean it out. Now, your machine is built and made not for you to have to oil your machine. Yes, you should take it in for a spot treatment occasionally, because that oil or the lubrication needs to be checked by a registered official technician. But okay, so if the machine has oil built into it or lubrication built into it, say you spill some oil and you're going to pick it up, right? What would you do? So you would use maybe a cloth, you would use a paper towel, anything to absorb that oil. Well, if we have lint in our bobbin area, what do you think that lint could do? Well, it could take some of that lubrication to it. So to keep your machine running at tip-top shape over the time between spa treatments, then we want to clean out that bobbin area. And especially, we don't want any lint blocking our function to let us know if we're running low on bobbin. So now, let's clean out our machine. If you haven't done it in a while, well, maybe you should right after the video. I haven't cleaned this one in a while, just so I could make sure I had a special machine, well, and make sure we have some lint. Let's check it out. So here's the bed of the machine. And I'm going to take off the ankle and the foot. And I'm going to take off the bobbin cover. Now, the machine, the operation manual highly suggests that you turn off the machine when you perform this function. If I did that, well, I'd lose my light. So I'm going to show you another way. Up here at the very top of the screen, do you see the foot with the needle? What happens when I touch that is it locks down the machine. I say okay, and the screen becomes totally, well, non-functional. When I touch it, nothing's going to happen. And even more importantly, it locks the machine up. That's what I want, so I don't hurt myself. So now that we've done that, we need to take this needle plate off. And we take our multifunction screwdriver that came with the machine and stick it in this hole right here and give it a push just like that, and it's going to pop off the bobbin, the needle plate cover. Now what I use is I just use a makeup brush. I got a very expensive makeup brush, and I hope you can see I've got quite a collection of little bunnies in here. So all you need to do, I put a little bit of oil on my brush, kind of come on in, look for stuff. You can take a pair of tweezers. Sometimes thread gets caught in your cutter, which is right here. Now here's the bobbin. I'm going to take the bobbin out, and the bobbin case just came right out. Now, I think I've done really good in letting my machine build up some lint so that you can see. Can you see all this lint right here in the bottom? What happens is that lint will build up over time and raise the bobbin up, so you don't get the ideal performance at all. Look at all that. So what I do is I take my brush, I clean it out. take my tweezers and gently get the area that, oh my goodness, look at all this. Get the areas that are resistant to my tweezers. If you want to build up a lot of lint, sew on some flannel. And I've amassed quite a collection, and I'm not even done. Now, can you use some canned air to clean out your machine? Well, the technicians, what they do is they use a compressor that just blows regular air. Canned air will get super cold super fast. If you need to use that and you don't have a handy dandy compressor hanging around, just give it short bursts of that canned air. I actually prefer getting my vacuum cleaner out, putting a little attachment on there, and just sucking most of the lint out. Now, if there's a little area with something fuzzy, well, that's meant to be there. Don't get too aggressive when you're cleaning out your bobbin area. Now, when the bobbin area is all clean, and this by no way is all the way clean, what we're going to do is we're going to put our bobbin case back in. Now, I wanted to show you this bobbin case. This machine comes with 2 bobbin cases. This is the standard bobbin case. I know that because right here I have the little screw that adjusts the tension of the bobbin case, and it is painted with a little dot of green paint. That means that this is the standard bobbin case. Now, I don't recommend necessarily going in and changing the tension on your bobbin, because, why? Well, it's a very small screw, and it's a very fine adjustment. Technicians have a special device to measure the tension or the resistance on that bobbin thread. You may not have one. In fact, you probably don't. So I don't recommend adjusting the tension on your bobbin case. Adjust the top tension of your machine if you absolutely need to. But did I mention that machine comes with 2 bobbin cases? It comes with this alternate bobbin case right here. And what it has, it does not have any paint on that screw. Generally, it will have a blue dot on the inside, indicating that it's the alternate bobbin case. It is recommended, its tension is set a little bit tighter. So what happens is, if you need a little bit more pull on that bobbin, if you need a tighter tension there, change out and use that bobbin case. The one with the green on the screw, good for sewing, embroidery. It's been set. It should be good to go. Adjust the top, but don't adjust the bobbin. The technician will do that when you take your machine in. Now, another thing that's good to know is that when you put your bobbin case back in, and there it is, where did I put it? What happens is, right here on the bobbin case, there's a little bit of a white spot. Here on the top, in the mechanism, there's a white dot. When you put this bobbin case in, what's going to happen is you want to meet those 2. And then there's a little kind of a nose right here. So you can get it in, make sure it's nice and flat before you put everything back together again. Now, taking off that needle plate cover, putting it back on, it's really easy. So I don't think you have any excuse not to get in there and remove your fuzzy bunnies like I did. Now, let's talk a little bit about the bobbin thread that you're going to use. Now, for sewing, you're going to match the bobbin thread to the regular sewing thread. For embroidery, you're going to use that bobbin thread or a pre-wound bobbin. What if you're doing something like free motion quilting and you're going to be using slightly different thread? Maybe you're using a super thin thread. Well, you know now that you could use this bobbin case that's a little bit tighter tension on the bobbin, and that would work fine. Go ahead and do a stitch a sample. See what works with your machine for whatever bobbin thread you're going to use. Now, there's another bobbin case that's an option for your machine, and it's a gray plastic, not this black plastic. That's a super bobbin case that's designed specifically for doing bobbin work. Bobbin work is when you use a much thicker thread in the bobbin, and that bobbin tension really has to be adjusted. So that's an option if you're going to do bobbin work. Contact customer service and they can get you hooked up. Let them know the model of your machine and you can get that gray bobbin case. It's that one. Now that one, go ahead and adjust for those different thicknesses of thread. Oh, and I forgot to tell you one thing. When you're cleaning out your machine, I forgot to tell you. You know that bobbin, the bobbin goes through the bobbin tensioner. Let's see how that threads up. Now that I have this here, let's put that bobbin thread in. And you will see what happens is there's a quick set tension on this bobbin, which means when you put the bobbin in, you actually don't have to pull the thread up before you start to sew. There's a little guide right here that's etched in the metal. So it shows the bobbin going in this way and the thread following just like this around this path. What happens is that bobbin, by following this path, that bobbin thread gets engaged in the bobbin tension, right? So you're good to go. If you want to pull up that thread before you start to sew, like for free motion quilting, just don't follow the full path. Put it in, go part way, and then go needle down and needle up and pull that bobbin thread up from the bottom. Now, one thing that could happen, and I totally forgot to tell you, is there's the little bobbin screw for the tension, right? This is where the thread gets pulled in, right in through here. It's automatic when you follow that path. But what happens is right in here, sometimes it could happen, a little piece of lint gets caught in there. And that just totally opens up that tension disc and your bobbin tensions, you're not going to have any. So when you clean out your bobbin area, you can take a paper business card, kind of go in there and make sure you don't have any lint in that. Glad I remembered to tell you that. Well, we talked a lot about the bobbin thread, and we're not going to be messing with that bobbin tension, really. If we need to make adjustments, use the tensioning on the machine, or even in the settings, there's tension that you can adjust that embroidery tension. You shouldn't necessarily have to do it, but if you do it on the top thread, the needle thread, and not the bobbin. Wow, we've sure talked a lot about bobbins, right? I wonder how many times I've said bobbin in the last few minutes. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this has helped you understand how that bottom thread really, really works. And if you take anything away from this video, clean out your machine. It's really going to be thankful, and you're going to get a better performance when you use those official bobbins. I'm going to send it off to George. Thank you so much for watching me today. Get out there, clean your machine, and bobbin a little.
Thanks, Cathy. That was an incredible presentation. And so let's go over the special offer we have on the Brother Stellaire series. So we have the XJ2, which is their combination sewing and embroidery, and the XE2, which is dedicated embroidery. They both share the same embroidery features, which is a large 9.5 by 14 inch embroidery area with over 780 built-in embroidery designs, and of them, over 100 of them are Disney. It also has over 30 fonts and large, beautiful monograms. And with the fonts, you can edit in all kinds of arrangements. You can arc, you can array, you can even cut and paste and kern it in some custom ways. Speaking of customization, you can take a design and do an automatic applique around it. And with the matrix copy, you can copy this very quickly to make patches. And if we had the scan and cut, we can actually send it to the scan and cut out those patches, and then embroider them beautifully. An additional advanced technology is a new 2-point laser positioning. I can take something like a name and position it perfectly on a line. I can use it to do multiple hoopings and match them perfectly. I can even use it for edge-to-edge quilting. Now, part of what the Stellaire series offers is a special relationship with the scan and cut. They actually can marry together, so I can send an applique design right from my machine and it will cut it out perfectly for beautiful applique. But better yet, I can send a design from my scan and cut and turn it into embroidery. It also unlocks a new feature where I can choose one of the colors of my design, whether if it's a built-in design, I can choose that and turn it into applique. But let's take that heart that I sent over. I turn it into embroidery. I select the color, and now it's applique. Now let's bring over the third part of the piece. I want to create my own fabric, and I can do that with Print Moda. I took an image of a rose and I arranged it just in a beautiful kaleidoscope of color. And I printed that fabric and placed it on in the scan and cut. I took my design I created on the Stellaire from the scan and cut, sent it over to the scan and cut it out, and I have one complete embroidery design created with that trifecta of creativity. Now the XJ2 also is a sewing machine, and it has a large 11.25-inch opening, beautiful lighting. It has 760 built-in stitches, from quilting stitches to applique to utility. It even has automatic stippling and some beautiful decorative stitches that are very, very wide. It also has an automatic 1/4 inch feature which moves the needle over a 1/4 inch from the foot, and you can use the laser guidance it has on there so you can just do some beautiful piecing. It also has amazing fabric control with an automatic fabric sensor, and this gives you the ability to sense multiple layers like in denim, or if I want to sew on some sheer fabric like this tricot, I can do that beautifully, or even working with elastics. It handles the fabric beautifully. If it's even more extreme, we can add the digital dual feed. This is a belt-driven feed system that gives perfect contact on the fabric. And so you see here with this marine vinyl, there's no slippage. I also can use it with such things as minky, which is hard to sew with, and of course, quilting. For more information on this incredible product, click on the link to see our current special offer. You can email us at customerservice@moores-sew.com or call us at 1-800-865-9664.